Here we are on a Monday night, and we are headed into, I guess, some early summer weather. I think we can call it that for the eastern part of the United States. A little less smoke today, in general, from the Canadian wildfires. It wasn't all gone, but it was a little bit less than what it was yesterday. We've got severe weather going on in the plains tonight, and we will take a look at where we're going for the rest of the week and into the weekend. That's right here tonight on your favorite weather podcast, the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. And you can support the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. The live stream is commercial free, and we'd like to keep it that way. So if you do your shopping on our affiliate link on Amazon, you do your Amazon shopping there. Amazon throws us back a little bit of coin for sending you there, and you don't pay one extra dime. It's an easy way to support the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast and keep the live stream commercial free. So, started the podcast a little bit early tonight because I'm by myself. Joe Rayo had went to the dentist. He had some crown work that was scheduled to be done, but they gave him so much Novocaine that he's having a tough time speaking. So he decided to take the night off. So rest up. You only have to go back in 2 weeks when they have to do the second part of all of this. But eventually, though, that Novocaine will wear off, and we wish him well. Welcome to everybody on the chat board tonight, and those of you watching in the background on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. We're glad you're here. We are here Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. and the occasional Friday and Saturday. If there's a big storm around, we add an extra show or two, and we certainly will let you know about it. So do subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn your notifications on so you don't miss us. And of course, if you like the podcast, by all means, hit the like button. And by the way, we are also, if you're in your car, you missed the YouTube show. If you're watching it, can't watch it on your phone. We're also on the various podcasts outlets like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, um, iHeartRadio, where there's so many of them, and we're everywhere. I think we're even on Amazon Music somewhere. So there you go. So you can't get to the live stream. You could always listen to us uh, in the car or wherever you happen to be. All right, so we had a very lovely day here in North Georgia, by the way. We got down to near 50 this morning, made it up to near 80 this afternoon. Less hazy than it was yesterday with all the Canadian wildfire smoke that we were dealing with in the eastern part of the United States. The northwest flow is generally relaxing, so as a result, we're seeing the smoke diminish. It's not completely gone. It's just going to need maybe another day or so to get the flow to be more west southwest, and that should push most of it out. And it also will keep new smoke from coming down. It'll probably just spread it out across southeastern Canada and not really bleed all the way down through the eastern and southern United States. Also, for the first time in a long time, we've got a stretch of weather this week in the Northeast, most of the Northeast and the Mid Atlantic states, where there's not going to be much rain. And I know that's hard to believe. I also think it's hard to believe that we're not going to have at least 1 or 2 days with an onshore flow and temperatures not getting out of the 50s, or as it was maybe about a week and a half or so ago, where we had a day where temperatures barely were able to get out of the 40s. Well, we don't have that. We've got the warmest temperatures that we've probably seen all spring setting up now. And I think there's a chance that a couple of spots might get up close to 90. Uh, Not tomorrow, and maybe not Wednesday, but probably if this is going to happen, I think the best chance for it, assuming that there's enough sunshine, will be Thursday. And we also have a little system in the tropics that's being mentioned by the Hurricane Center, which we'll get to in just a little bit. So we're going to start tonight out with the watches and warnings map. I don't solo this show very often anymore. I used to solo it a lot more uh, than I did than before, than now, because Joe Rayo, when he was joined me as a partner. Um, well, with when I do solo, it's a little bit more difficult for me because I got to figure out how to do all the technical things. Like I was just having trouble right now bringing up the first map. So bear with me, folks. I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat board in case there's a problem that I forget to bring the maps up or something along those lines, as I know you folks will always let me know, uh, and always in a nice way, that I didn't put the maps up or something else is going on. All right, watches and warnings. Nothing much really in the east at all. We do have some fog advisories up. I think that's fog or it might be air quality. Let's just take a look before I speak. Yeah, no, it's an air quality alert, and that's probably left over from what's going on with the smoke-filled skies in some places. Also, the same in Ohio. We do have in the green flash flood watches up for a good chunk of the state of Missouri, eastern Kansas into Oklahoma. And then from northwest Texas and the western half of Oklahoma, northward through Kansas, eastern Colorado, much of Nebraska, southeastern Wyoming, northwestern Iowa, and even into a few counties of Minnesota, we have severe thunderstorm watches. There are several watch boxes up in play. Not a whole lot going on in the west. We've got some heavy rain going on in Florida, although we don't see any kind of warnings there to speak of. And here's what it looks like on the satellite loop tonight. Now you see the milky this here, what looks like these are not clouds, that milky look across Illinois, the Great Lakes. And it kind of runs down across parts of the south and southeast, and then up along the immediate coast. In between that, in Ohio and West Virginia and Pennsylvania right now, there's sort of a clear spot where there's no smoke. And again, as that flow becomes more west southwest, as opposed to Northwest. If you look at Eastern Canada, you still have a little swirl there that's coming down into New York State that is that has a northerly flow to it. Well, that's that upper trough. The last piece of it is finally going to pull out tonight. And again, once we get into that west southwest flow, I think we're going to be uh, getting a break from all of this. In the meantime, there's a disturbance in South Florida and extending down into Cuba and east out into Bahamas. So you see there's a lot of disorganized showers and thunderstorms there. In the west, back in Texas, and in Colorado, back up through Wyoming, and also you can see a line of storms forming across Nebraska on a diagonal extending into northwest Iowa and Minnesota, with the accompanying lightning strikes that are going on. So that's where we're seeing some severe weather. Also seeing some thunderstorms. Some of this is actually leftover remnants from the Pacific tropical storm Alvin, that fell apart as it approached the southern tip of the Baja Peninsula over the weekend, but the moisture kind of made its way up into parts of the Southwest. So a bit on the busy side, but between what's down in Florida and then what's west out in the plains, there's really nothing going on in terms of precipitation. You can see on the radar, there's actually a couple of specks up in northern Vermont and in New Hampshire, and that's it. In South Florida, there's moderate to heavy rain in the southern third of the state, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, probably up to about West Palm Beach, maybe a little bit further north than that. On the west side, it goes north of to about Fort Myers or so, and then it starts to tail off. Uh, Areas moving very slowly. There's some heavier thunderstorms east of the southeast coast of Florida, offshore toward the northwestern Bahamas. So all of that is part of a little disturbance that's I guess we might call it a tropical disturbance, I suppose, that's heading very slowly to the northeast. And meanwhile, out in the west, we're seeing a cluster of severe thunderstorm warnings in southwest Kansas. We're seeing a line of storms here and numerous severe thunderstorm warnings that have been issued. Also, flash flood warning that's up in parts of central Nebraska. This is going to continue during the overnight. Seeing some severe thunderstorm warnings in southeast Wyoming, a couple in southwest Colorado, in southeast Colorado, some general showers and a thunderstorm or two up I-25 to about Denver, and then also in the western part of the state. And then we're seeing what's left of some tropical moisture in parts of southern Utah, southern Nevada, into southern California, also on up into northern New Mexico. Storm Prediction Center tonight: one, two, three, four, five severe thunderstorm watches in effect in an area of slight to enhanced risk of severe weather that runs from West Texas all the way up into Minnesota, the enhanced risk in Northwest Texas into the Oklahoma Panhandle and into southwestern Kansas. And as far as tornado risk is concerned, they really didn't have a very high uh, tornado risk earlier today with the original forecast. They actually didn't change it very much. It's a 2% risk from northeast Colorado northeastward into southeast South Dakota and a very small portion of northwestern Iowa. And that's for tonight. Now, for tomorrow, SPC has got a rather large area. It's not very wide, but it's a large area in terms of the stretch from south to north, from central Texas, almost all of Oklahoma except the west, southeast Kansas, Missouri, eastern Iowa, western Illinois, southernmost Wisconsin, all in a slight risk. And there is a broad area of 2% tornado risk here that is being indicated. So I when you see the 2% tornado risk, think isolated tornadoes. If you start to see numbers around five, okay, it'll probably be a little bit more than isolated. And when you see 10 or 15, that's when you start to get into situations where you can get uh, a number of tornadoes being produced, maybe a dozen or more during a 24-hour period. And then we move on to day three. And you'll notice through all of this, the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states pretty much, no thunderstorms are being forecast at all. And why should you, with a big high sitting off the North Carolina coast and not really going anywhere? So Wednesday into Thursday, we have a marginal risk from southeastern Illinois across Indiana, northwest Ohio, and southeast Michigan. Also, another area of marginal risk in eastern New Mexico and southern Colorado. And on the long range, SPC, as soon as it loads, for some reason, the SPC website has been very slow to load, or sometimes you get these timeouts. I don't know if it's because too many people going on it at the same time. I'll come back to it. Uh, in the meantime, we're seeing, as far as WPC's rainfall forecast, uh, upstate New York, northern New England, across Vermont, New Hampshire, and into Maine, you've got that area of an inch and a half plus. But the amounts actually decrease as you go south, and actually from just north of New York City and southern Connecticut southward down into Delaware, Maryland, and northern Virginia, it's only about a quarter of an inch. And a little area in South Jersey is actually even less than a quarter of an inch, more like a tenth of an inch over the next 7 days. Really picks up along the southeast coast, where we've got a few inches being indicated from North Carolina down to Florida and the Georgia, down to Georgia and the Florida coast, and down through South Florida, some areas with several inches or more. And notice there's an area of 7 to 10 inches. Well, let me see. Oh, sorry, 5 to 7 inches being indicated just off the coast of Georgia and South Carolina and North Carolina. So that's with some little low that's going to try and form there. And also significant rains over the next 7 days, with areas of 5 to 7 inches being indicated across central and eastern Oklahoma, southeastern Kansas, and extending up into Missouri, and a very broad area of an inch and a half plus that goes all the way up into northwest Ohio and as far west as eastern Colorado. Meanwhile, in the western part of the United States, except for a small area in northern Arizona and southern Utah, where we've got some areas of a half to three-quarters of an inch, little to no precipitation being indicated up and down the west coast. A little bit, tenth to a quarter of an inch in some of the mountains in Sierra Nevadas, and also in some of the mountains in Southern California. Let me see if we can get the long range from SPC. Yes, we can finally. So on day 4, SPC has an implied slight risk in Northwest Texas, Western Oklahoma, and Kansas. And then after that, it's got predictability too low for the day 5, day 6, day 7, and the day 8 time frame. So as we always say, when they have predictability too low, it usually means that, you know what, there's probably going to be some severe weather somewhere, but we don't know enough at the moment to define a general area of risk. So you just have to kind of wait till it gets into the long term. Just going to really quick on their discussion. They do say latest guidance is trended toward a climatologically active extended period for severe potential. So it says it appears that a 15% severe areas will be delineated each day within a persistent split flow regime. Okay, you're not getting weather technical. Trying to see if they're focusing on any particular area. They talk about the area on day 4. For day 5, they highlight the possibility of the mid Mississippi Valley, the eastern portions of the Midwest, and that's really it. They don't really speculate much beyond that. Okay, so we're kind of in cruise control here. And let's start off with what's going on in Florida. And overnight, there's just going to be rain there. It's not moving very fast. That little disturbance is not really moving very fast. So it carries on into Wednesday. And then if you notice, there's a bulge that moves up off the northeast coast of Florida to coastal Georgia. There's like a little low that forms there. And I'm going to get the Hurricane Center's tropical weather outlook up because they did have something on an earlier forecast. And there you go. So this is the day 7. They have only a 10% chance that something could form. They say a non-tropical area of low pressure is forecast to form near or offshore the southeast U.S. during the next 2 to 3 days. If the system remains offshore, the low could gradually develop some subtropical or tropical characteristics later this week while it moves northeast at 10 to 15 miles per hour. It's never going to be an issue here, but they're just kind of highlighting it on their outlook. Meanwhile, what's going on in the plains, and you see there's a developing low there in Kansas. That low really doesn't do very much. The whole frontal boundary just shifts eastward. It's just kind of like a stick of thunderstorms that pushes east. Meanwhile, we've got this high that's offshore, or will be offshore tomorrow afternoon, and then we get into the southwest flow, and the isobars actually bend more west southwest as we go into Wednesday and Thursday, which is why I think Thursday, if there's a chance of getting to 90 degrees, that might be the day. Can't rule it out completely for Wednesday, but I think Thursday's probably the better bet. And that high's going to hold offshore, and this front kind of dies out to some extent. It pushes up into western New York on Thursday, but all the thunderstorms are well north of I-90. They just kind of fire up in the afternoon and evening. The front really just falls apart. And then we get a more important system that comes out for Friday, where some showers and thunderstorms seem possible late in the afternoon and evening, mainly for inland areas, but we'll have to keep an eye on this. And of course, you see what's happening here off the coast of South Carolina. A low does form and kind of sneaks to the North Carolina coast, and then just kind of gets absorbed with what's going on in the north. So the front on Friday closes in on Saturday and slows down and stalls because of the little low that's sitting off the North Carolina coast. The front's going to get hung up. And we do see the European, at least, generating a rather hefty amount of shower and thunderstorm activity. It'll be interesting to see what WPC does with this tomorrow, if the European's trend is correct. And then the low moves off and front move offshore. Weather conditions improve on Monday. And then later next week, looks like another front starts to come down from Canada and swings into the eastern part of the United States a week from tomorrow. But, you know, other than what will happen on Friday night, Saturday, we're going to be dry going into that. And we're probably going to be dry for a while coming out of that. The next chance maybe late Tuesday with a shower or storm, and then it's dry again for much of next week. The way the pattern is setting up, it gets a little onshorish though. Interestingly enough, around mid-month, it's got a high up, 10:30-ish high sitting in James Bay this time of year. That's not shabby, and that high pushes down into Quebec, so eventually dropping all the way southward. If you're going to get into one of the things that over the years I've noticed, if you're going to get a high in eastern Canada when you get into the months of May and June, you want it to eventually drop southward. So you can push the onshore flow and the clouds and any rain further and further south. And at least that seems to be what the Europeans put doing here for week after next. So, of course, obviously it's a long ways down the road and we're going to see the models change. Um, but, this is not, to me, uh, just like in May when we were looking at things and saying that other than the odd day, this was not going to be a pattern where we're going to see prolonged heat. Now we can say it's sort of the other way with the trough pulling up into Canada and the trough in the east kind of disappearing for a short time, although it does tend to come back. See it here dropping in around the 9th and 10th, and then it lifts out, and then you're just sort of left with a flattish flow. There's kind of a little upper low there that forms in the Great Lakes. Um, this is not really a pattern that's going to be conducive for onshore flow situations, at least for the next 10 days. Beyond 10 days is, that's a whole other story, but at least for the next 7 to 10 days, we're not going to have to deal with that. So, with us being in a ridge position here this week, we're going to see temperatures warm up. We'll probably uh, see some temperatures reaching the 80s tomorrow. And I think we'll see mid and upper 80s on Wednesday. Outside chance somebody gets to 90. And then Thursday, I think, is probably the best shot that we have to see a general area of upper 80s to low 90s. Friday, with maybe more clouds, temperatures will scale back a bit. And then, of course, we have that threat for some showers and storms later in the day. And then on Saturday, the same thing. Going to have to wait for uh, this short wave that's coming down to push on through, which it will. And then after that, we should see weather conditions improve as we move on into Sunday. So let me bring myself back here. And I finally got, I was waiting. So I had my flower beds were all done, but I had two flower beds that I needed to get plants for. And I was specifically looking for a certain type of plant. It's, I guess the easy name for it is a Japanese laurel. Uh, but it's a spotted. It's called a spotted, yellow spotted akuba. And I planted about five or six of them in one part of the yard a couple of years ago, and they have a very tropical look to them. And the leaves are green and yellow, and they add some very interesting color to the background. And the thing is, in the wintertime, they don't drop their leaves, and they're very, very hardy down to 0 degrees because the leaves are there all winter long. What happens is in the cold, the leaves get all shriveled up, but as soon as the temperature goes back up above 32, the leaves open up, and you never know. When it's really, really cold and you look at it, you think, oh my God, I've lost these plants. They cost $30 a piece. I'm going to have to replace them all. But as soon as the temperature goes above 32 and they get some sun on them, they come right back and they look fine. So when they started finally they started adding some height to them. So I was looking for some, and I happened to go to a nursery on the other side of town, which I don't often get to, just on the chance that they might have them, and I needed six. And lo and behold, I get there. As soon as I walk into the perennial section, I actually passed them by. I completely missed them. I went through all the perennials and the greenhouses, and I was leaving. And as I was leaving, um, in the very spot, it was the first thing I should have seen if I was, looking carefully. there were six of these plants, and that's exactly what I needed to get. And Home Depot here was getting rid of azaleas, small ones. They had them reduced to $5 a piece, uh, down from like 15 or 20. So I picked up a bunch of them, and I got them all in the ground, and everything is done. And now I can relax. Why didn't I just ask for help? Because I like to look. Seriously, why should I ask for help? I know what I was looking for. Um, but I was also, sometimes I look around and I stumble upon other interesting plants. Uh, Point is, I got what I wanted. You know, so I don't understand why you would even ask the question. Uh, yeah, I walk up and down the greenhouses. This is not New York, folks. Everything here is wide open. The One of the local nurseries in town, I mean, they have all their stuff outside when they're closed at night, and you would think that they would have a problem with people, maybe somebody coming by and taking their stuff. It doesn't happen here, okay? Just to let you know, uh, does not happen here. We don't have our shampoo locked up in the stores. So, oh, it's Bella Lugrisi. It's good to see you. Just I cut an X with sheetrock. Let's see. Just trying to see what's on the chat board here. Yeah, I kind of, Frank, I'm kind of with you on this. It's not that I actually the whole people here at Home Depot, are really great. And no one would ever turn around here and say that it's not my department. No matter where I am in the store, if I'm looking for something and have to ask for somebody, they either take me to where it is or they'll get somebody to do it. But they never would answer like that would not play here at all. And the people at Home Depot in the gardening department here in Blairsville are terrific. They really are. They're very nice, and of great help. But I like to stroll when I go look when I was looking. I just kind of like to stroll around and take a look at all the different plants and you know trying to trying to get visualize what some plants are going to look, how it's going to look in my flower beds. And I have a particular problem. I have a lot of shade, so I can't really put in um, anything that requires full sun because it's just not going to play here. I mean, even the sunniest part of my yard maybe gets about 4 to 5 hours worth of sun at most. So I have to just basically plant very strategically, and there's not a lot of shade plants, all shade plants. I don't like to get a lot of annuals because I get burned every time I put annuals down. I always get burned one way or the other. Like I bought these marigolds this year. The marigolds, I haven't bought marigolds in years, but these marigolds look really, really hardy, and I planted them in and they were fine for about 2 or 3 weeks. And then I don't know what happened, but it looked like something got in there, whether it was insects or maybe too much rain because we had about, for the month of May, we had more than double the normal rainfall here, over 10 inches. But almost all my marigolds just basically wilted away. The flowers are still there, but all the leaves are gone. So I don't know if something got in there and just ate them, or if it was the fact that there was just too much rain. So impatience. I swore for years after living on Long Island, where everybody puts up impatiens, that I was not going to put impatiens up. But you know what? They work in the shade for the most part, and that's what I wound up going with. And actually, they've added a lot of color to uh, to my yard, so I'm happy I made that particular decision. So anyway, uh, the growing season was much shorter on Long Island. Well, to an extent, that's true. Spring always, it always took longer for the buds to come out in the spring because of the Long Island onshore flow just keeps things really, really cool. So you wait for unless you get a spring where you get some really, really warm weather in the early part of spring or the mid part of spring. I always liked it actually that it was colder for longer because it meant that the spring flowers like azaleas or the tulips, daffodils, and so on, those blooms would last a lot longer. You get an early stretch of 90-degree weather in April, and you got tulips out. Your tulips are going to be dead in 3 days. So I kind of preferred it cool. And we had actually a pretty cool spring here. Everything got going rather late, but uh, it was also good because with the cooler air, the cooler weather, it made it a lot easier to work outside. And now I'm all done. So I've got all of June, all of July, all of August, and all of September to enjoy my my yard and my work. So on that note, folks, we will say good night. If Joe is watching, I hope your Novocaine is starting to wear off, Mr. Rayo, and we should be back tomorrow night, and I'll be here tomorrow night at the usual time, folks, 7:35 p.m. Eastern. So have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.